I know I can't sing. It's okay. I recommended these two books as relatively easy, and these can be acquired on various websites as I roll my eyes. I wanted to talk about something that's incredibly important, and yet the number of books that are actually out there on this topic are extremely few and far between. There are some academic books on Apophaticism, and unfortunately it approaches it from a academic position. It's highly analytical, and it's completely devoid of the intent of understanding what Apophaticism or the Via Negativa methodology actually is. But also, too, I'm nearly done writing an article on the topic of so-called meditation, what the term is actually in reference to, but also, too, what the correct methodology is, and try to give a clear illumination as to what it is, because there's many, countless books and topics on method, and that they're aspecific, they confuse people, nobody knows what anybody's actually trying to communicate. So it's actually an extremely serious issue, and I've been through every book imaginable and countless thousands of ones that you have not. And I'm not interested in academics. I'm interested in genuine comprehension. I could sit here with a picture of a plate of food, but it's not going to feed me. Not that I need to be fed, since I'm already fed, obviously so. But, having empirical knowledge is not wisdom. It is not genuine comprehension, and I'm not one to confuse those two. That's also, too, an attribute of wisdom. Anyway, these are a couple books. This is by Aldous Ludovinus. This is called Philosophy, a Rite of Rebirth. As a Rite of Rebirth, excuse me. I'm actually friends with this person. This is the only living author that I actually respect. She's Irish. She retired to Ghana, I believe. I should know that. I've had video talks with her. Lovely lady. It's Deidre Carabinus. Is her book, The Unknown God, right here. Yep. It also, too, can be acquired in various places. It used to be extremely rare on Amazon, but thanks to me thumping that book, it's become available again. Specifically, the methodology is anamnesis. I don't know if you're familiar, and I'm not interested in discussing this word, but it's kind of funny, yet also too interesting, that the original ancient muses were three, not nine, of the Greek Boeotian muses. Originally three is the Eodia, Melite, Meneme. Specifically, song, Eodia. Melite is where the word that we get meditation from. What this word actually means is actually rather profane. It means practice or ritual, and here we enter in religion. The third muse is Meneme, and this is a reference not to conventional recollection or memory, but the word means metaphysical memory, specifically anamnesis, sati. We're talking about what is antecedent. There's a great word a lot of people don't use, but it's not a difficult word. You can look up the word antecedent and what it actually means. It means that which is prior to something. Kind of like the light you see in a stained glass window. The light is antecedent to the red or blue stained glass window that it becomes coincident with. And then, of course, we see red or blue light. So this is metaphysical recollection, not conventional recollection like what did you eat for dinner yesterday. Humorously, and to me it's kind of humorous, people are worshiping and not literally worshiping the premise of the wrong muse. We get the word meditation from the Greek muse of Melite. We were talking about the word means ritual, practice, rite or ritual and practice. And this, of course, is always profane, and this, of course, is the realm of religion. Because true practice is not rite nor ritual, i.e. worldly practice, rather is rooted in recollection, anamnesis. Apophaticism, the Via Negativa methodology. That's what, and there are many different books on Apophaticism. However, unfortunately, not many actually, roughly about 30, but 90% of them are, the examination of Apophaticism, the Via Negativa, from a scholastic position rather than talking about its true intent and meaning. And these are two of the best. Without reading, hundreds of pages of the Enneads of Plotinus, or, trying to read Syrianus or Damasius or Proclus or Iamblichus and, have your eyes crossed and get into some really hardcore stuff where you do not understand the primer of what is being discussed. For example, the most repeated phrase in ancient Pali, of which I'm a translator, is Isekai Namisata. This body is not the soul. My soul, of course, would be incorrect. We could say that conventionally. My soul, of course, implies possession, like one thing has another. A radio doesn't have a signal. There's not a signal in a radio, in my radio analogy. The actual methodology, and I'm writing about that in this article that I should have done no later than the end of this coming week, is the Pneumatic Principle. But we're not actually talking about focusing on air. And here we get, and this has been around for many countless of centuries, and once again we enter in religion. And I don't say that in a praiseworthy fashion, rather just the opposite, of, quote, breath meditation. It's not originally meant, and I'll post the Majjhima Nikaya 3.81 passage, which I translated ages ago, what this is actually saying. We're talking about the pneumatic principle of animation. I have charts, and I explain it simply so that everybody is able to understand it. But this methodology of Apophaticism, I wish more people would wrap their brains around it, because it's not that difficult. To posit anything is to forward phenomena. We start talking about something, we posit something. The actual correct methodology, because subject always precedes object of negation. That which is antecedent to phenomena is, of course, the goal, and logically so must necessitatively be the only refuge. The soul is a refuge, with none other is a refuge. Digha 2.100, the Attasrana Anandasrana. The soul is Charioteer. Atevasrati in ancient Pali. By the way, the ancient actually, analogy for the soul, both in the Vedas and the original Nikayas, is that the body is the chariot, made out of wood and wheels, and the senses are the 5 horses, and the charioteer is the soul. However, in the case of most people, they don't have control of the reins, which of course control the horses. They let the horses run willy-nilly. People, rather than having control over their faculties, they let their faculties have control over them. Emotions, feelings, lust, anger, so on and so forth. Greed, fear, they let the horses run wild. They don't have control of it. So, attavasrati, the soul is charioteer. Now, what is potential, of course, is not actual. I have a soul, you have a soul, everybody has a soul. Why don't you go looking for something? It's not about looking for something. You're never going to find the soul objectively, obviously not, because by definition it's pure subject. But what is potential is not actual. To say have a soul, of course, is also too incorrect. But use logic, common sense, and wisdom here. What is potential is not actual. If one were always that which they always are, an acorn is genetically identical to an oak tree, but you can't get any lumber out of an acorn, can you? No? It takes fertilizer, sun, light, blah, blah, blah. 100 years maybe to get, a lot of lumber out of a giant oak tree. What is potential is not actual. You're holding the same thing in your hand. That acorn is potentially a giant oak tree, given many countless factors. So what one is inherently is true and undeniable, but actualization needs to be effectuated. What do you think Via Negativa is? You cannot go looking, because the pure subject, of course, is the principle of and subject of liberation. You cannot go looking for the proverbial needle in the haystack of phenomena. The soul, the point, the subject of refuge cannot be found objectively, logically, necessitatively so. This is the reason why the word samadhi comes from the word jhana, which is the root jayati, meaning to burn. If you never go looking for a needle in the haystack, you would literally set fire to the haystack, and the only thing that would be left, of course, is a needle. But then, of course, you would still have a problem with that analogy, because the needle would be an object, but the soul, the refuge, is never an object. What is the opposite of dilution? That would be concentration, right? The dilution born by and continued by primordial agnosis necessitates, logically so, that the methodology... This metaphysical is not illogical at all. When you go to the metaphysics section of a bookstore, you see a bunch of New Age garbage and crystal rubbing. Some people call it woo-woo, or woo. You know, just phew, craziness. Genuine metaphysics vis-a-vis the Greeks and the Indians is not woo. You know, it's kind of a funny word, woo, meaning just nonsense, twaddle, balderdash, ridiculousness. It is hyperlogical. You cannot find that principle objectively, nor could you. It is that which one is inherently, but what is potential is not actual. Literally, and this, again, I find humorous that the word meditation comes from the ancient Greek word melite. Melite is what is profane. We're talking about ritual, rites, practices. These things are conducive to things like, you know, it's not conducive if you're drinking and, you know, doing nonsense in your life, you know, living a reckless lifestyle. It is not conducive to. That would be conduct, you know, bad conduct. Well, I'm going to do correct conduct. Well, correct conduct is conducive to, but it is in no way connected to amoral monism, the via negativa, apophaticism of retroductive synthesis, i.e. theurgy, the apophaticism of pulling out, pulling back from false identity as born by primordial agnosis, the uncaused cause. There is no original sin or first cause in monistic monism. So I'm writing that article now. Like I said, I'm about 70% finished. The article, of course, will be free. But nobody talks about Platonic recollection or anamnesis. The third Greek muse, mneme, meaning memory, but not conventional memory. To recollect. To say the word even in English, recollection, is really no different than saying concentration. Like you had a bunch of things that were scattered, right? Say this, you're saying you're recollecting them in a heap, right? Recollection. This is no different than concentration. I have all these different aspects of myself, and they are diluted due to primordial agnosis in the psychophysical, corporeal human being. I'm going to concentrate them. I'm going to bring them into a heap, right? That's the same difference between conventional illumination and laser light. People go, well, laser is coherent light. It's self-similar. Well, attributionally that's true, but what a laser is a point source. And a point source never takes upon itself the... Now, if this were just regular white light, you know, a little flashlight in here, you know, the white light would fall on my hand, and whatever tattoo color would come back to my hand. It doesn't matter where this red laser falls. It is completely self-similar. It is a true physical definition of being a point source, and it is a point source also. But this recollection, the removal of that which scatters one being within the psychophysical, it's really kind of like making yourself a laser, where no longer you take up the attributes of anything that is encountered, because wisdom has transcended false identity and capitulation to psychophysicality due to primordial agnosis, which is not a thing, rather the absence of a thing. Avidya, agnosis, privative A. This is the reason why the word anatta is so unfortunately misunderstood. I mean, 99% of the Buddhists out there, and I'm an expert on this, I'm literally the world's #1 expert on this topic, the word anatta. Buddhism taught anatta. Anatta means no soul. Well, it doesn't mean that at all, and is never used that way doctrinally at all. Rupanatta, Vedanatta, Sankaranatta, Namrupanatta, Ti Isokaya, Namisata. Been a dead language now for over 1,800 years, but I can speak it. It's weird when you have dreams in ancient Pali. Well, this is nothing other than via negativa. This is apophaticism. This is subjective synthesis through objective negation. This is not the soul, that's not the soul. And that's not mere, conventional, conscious machinations, nor can you think your way out of a thinking box. It is genuine smriti, sati. It is mneme, the third and most important Greek muse. Everybody today that types, well, what's wrong with meditation? You'll like it in the article. So you say, well, you're giving homage to the Greek muse Melite, which is where we get the word meditation. By the way, the Latin Bible translated Melite into meditatio, i.e. meditation. This is practice, rituals, and rites. This is the inferior form of obedience to a higher principle. It is inferior. Rites and rituals, kind of like you go to a Catholic liturgy or, some sort of, Maria Patris and Filiz, you are swinging the incense and doing all this nonsense, drink the wine, all these silly practices. It's religion. Let me repeat again. That's religion. That's not metaphysics. Because religion is secularized metaphysics. These are rites and rituals. What's wrong? I feel better. Yes, you do. I meditate and I feel so much better. Yes, you do, but that's not the liberation ontology that's commanded, that's directly connected to wisdom, and that is not breaking the chain of becoming, bhava no bhava in the ancient Pali. It's not connected to that. It's just not. It's not my opinion. It's a fact. So this is the methodology that is commanded, the Apophaticism, the via negativa, the neti. And the term anatta is nothing other than an ancient Pali word for neti. It's not the soul. Buddhism taught there's no soul. It's like, no, I didn't. There's no such passage. So this is not the soul, that's not the soul, this is not the soul. If there's no soul, you just say there's no soul. You would never say, this is not the soul, and this isn't the soul, and that isn't. You would never do that. You say there's no soul. What about, no, there's no soul. Stop asking me about it. There's no such passage. You would not point out the countless different things that are not the soul if there were no soul. You say, there's no soul, period. Don't even ask me if that's the soul. There isn't one. You really have to have a tremendous amount of ignorance to not see the simplicity of that. And it's not my feeling or belief that it's that way. I mean, that's what doctrine says. Undeniably so. I've been debating these people for decades. They can't even get close to winning. They get angry. They start flinging things that are of a rancid nature, and they lose it. It's because they're attached to their beliefs, and you are not your beliefs. There's another thing, sraddha, beliefs. Soul is not your beliefs, nor are you that which you believe. This is the reason for 99.9% of the strife in the world. I believe, and I am what I believe, and if you attack my beliefs, you attack me. It's like, no, I'm not. You falsely believe due to ignorance that you are what you believe. The methodology is actually divinely simple, but nobody talks about it. They use this silly little word, meditation. Meditation doesn't refer to anything. That's not my opinion either. Even you go to Wikipedia, you go to any place. Meditation is such a broad term, it doesn't really, you can't pinpoint it. Nobody could say this is meditation. If absolutely everything is meditation, then meditation is a meaningless word like bro or dude. Because depending on the context of how you say it, it's like dude. Dude. Dude means everything. Like, bro. It's a meaningless word. I meditate. Yeah, I meditate too when I sit on the toilet and count the holes in the ceiling. Yeah. 1, 2. Technically, that is meditation by definition. Focusing, right ritual practice. That is not apophaticism. That's not via negativa. That's not anamnesis. It is not mneme. Metaphysical recollection. It is none of those. Yeah, but I feel so much better when I meditate. I feel so much better when I sit on the toilet. I finish my business, counting the holes in the ceiling. It's not about feeling better. Liberation is not about feeling one way or another. It is about complete disobjectification with the psychophysical, which is namisata, not the soul. And none of this is my opinion. It's logically so, it is doctrinally so, and necessitatively it can exist in no other way. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed the article when I'm done with it here in a few days. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.